Welcome back to Perception Uncut. I'm Blair Teller, and can't wait to get started with this one tonight. That song is brought to you by my two guests tonight and their bandmates. That was Bubba Wilson and the Powerhouse. That was off their EP Exit 17. That song is I Wasn't Done With You. And I've listened to them all. I listened to them all when they released it, and I really gave them more of a listen today, trying to figure out what one I wanted to play. It's good shit, dude.
Well, thank you, man. It wasn't an easy one. That was a hard one to write. It was my first heartbreak song.
So are you the writer of all the songs on that?
Yeah, pretty much. Al can attest here. When we do a lot of our songwriting, it's more of a matter of, someone bringing an idea in and just expanding on it. A lot of the songs that we wrote for that EP were me bringing the ideas to the table and seeing what they had to say about them. That one was especially intimate for me. That was, I Wasn't Done With You was a breakup song, obviously.
Yeah.
Me being, as the little baby boy that I am, this is my first ever real breakup song over my first ever real breakup.
Perfect time to write.
Yeah. Any musician can attest when you're hurting is the best time. But no, that one I almost solely brought to the table. But the way the boys interpreted it is, it's just fantastic.
It's magical. So I got a question.
Yeah.
I was trying to look back at the date that was released, and was it late 2015 or was it actually technically released?
It's funny you ask. Whatever day we're recording today, it was a year ago today it released.
Oh, wow.
Was it really?
January 16th.
I held on to that for tonight because it was a year ago today.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Because we had a release party at Thirsties.
Yeah.
Big ticketed event, and
You're right.
That was 365 days ago today.
Man, you guys were doing that, and Hannah and I bought our first new car, and that sounds great, but I would have rather been releasing my EP. But, yeah, that's cool. So, what do you guys got coming up next, gig-wise?
We're playing all over the place. We're working on, actually, some of the most fun gigs. We play bar gigs all the time, but some of the most fun things we do are the things that aren't necessarily for bars. They're either for venues or, private events or things like that. Last year, we did the Monroe County Community College Noontime Concert Series, which was a lot of fun. And it was a lot of fun because it was for Black History Month.
Oh, blues?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're all white boys, but that's all right.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. They actually had the paper come talk to us, like, man, don't you guys feel a little bit weird being here for Black History Month? A bunch of old white guys, and then one long-haired blonde white kid. And I explained it to him bluntly. I'm here because of those old fantastic blues musicians.
Absolutely. Oh, amen.
I'm doing what I'm doing because of that.
Yep, exactly.
I've had the pleasure of seeing some of the best, legendary musicians, B.B. King, and then within that same vein of the Black History Month concert series last year, not too far, past that, was we opened up for a guy named Toronzo Cannon out of Chicago. And you want to talk about a blues story to end all blues stories, bus driver by day, blues man by night.
That's great.
Oh, and it's so great.
And the night we played with him was his CD was coming out at midnight that night. And it has taken off. He's won awards with it. He's touring the world right now.
That's awesome.
And and we're sitting there looking at him and go, yeah, we knew him when.
Yeah. We opened up for that guy
right.
at the Ida Library of all places.
Oh yeah, I remember you were we were playing there. I had something going on. Before we get too far ahead, I want to formally introduce you guys though, because They just think you're Bubba Wilson in the Powerhouse. Obviously, we got Bubba Wilson here.
Hey there, guys.
I know Bubba for several years now. We met at a jam locally, and we'll get to that later. And then Al, I've known through Bubba and listening and creeping, but I formally kind of met him and actually got to jam with him last night. It was great. For those of you who haven't listened to the other shows, this is Perception Uncut. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's uncut. I might say fuck or something.
I might scream about tits.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want on here, man. I'm not.
So you're not going to edit out my Tourette's?
No.
Man, this might get ugly.
Al, no racist spoutings.
I've done very, very few edits, but if you beg me, things have slipped that couldn't be slipped before.
Bring it on.
Like that. But that's the whole point. I want that shit to happen. I like.
Yeah, we'll keep it to Comedy Central after.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yeah, the premise of this show is as many diverse guests as possible. Keep it interesting. This one was the easiest one I've prepped for because, not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty much as knowledgeable as you guys about music, so it's easy. I didn't have to think of all these questions. I can just spew my bullshit.
No, and I know you brought me on to just sit here and watch me stroke your ego. But
we all need it,
if
brother.
there's ever been a great guitar player under the age of 25, I mean...
Not for another month, that won't be true. At the age of 25. I'm getting old, man. Quarter century.
But honestly, and all the listeners out there, if you hadn't had a chance to listen to Blair Tuller play the guitar, oh my God, it's something to behold, honestly. I mean, because there's a bunch of young guitar players out there, and, thank God for the art that it's becoming much more popular for these great young kids to be playing guitar. I mean, we've met some great kids, Jake Kershaw out there, just young people out there playing guitar, and the fact that they don't suck is great. You know what I mean?
And then last night it was. I mean, I feel like I had the best seat in the house up there, just laying down a groove and watching you guys just go at it. Bubba, you on the keyboard, you on the guitar.
Yeah.
I was just sitting back here with a big smile on my face, going, "I got the best seat in the house." Sometimes.
That was great. Last night was awesome. So I want you guys to tell me more, us more, the listeners, about how the Powerhouse came to be, how the band came to be. How did you meet Alan, or vice versa?
Well, if we want to go back even farther than before Alan, it all starts at the Thirsty Sunday Night Blues Jam, where I met a guy named Kinks Heiss. It's a great friend of mine, goofy old hippie man.
Oh, dude, he's the bomb.
Oh, he's the best.
and
he does a Robert Plant tribute.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
And I joined that Robert Plant tribute as a 16-year-old. Our first gig was when I was 17, but as a 16-year-old, I joined this gig. And that's where I met a couple of guys named Ed Podolsky and Dave Sneed. And they were the bass player and drummer, respectively. And we were doing the Led Zeppelin stuff. And as things happen, we get burnt out on the Zeppelin. We all started to, hey, let's go do something else. There weren't too many hard feelings about it, but we all went and did our own thing. But sort of, Dave and Ed stopped me at the door and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And so that was the original Powerhouse. It was a 3-piece. It was Dave Sneed on drums, Ed Podolsky on bass, and myself on guitar and vocals. And that was a fun. We were just a jamming bar band.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I was I had just come off of not playing for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but playing with some, not necessarily small bands either.
Right. and a couple of childhood friends of mine I've known all my life just kind of drugged me out of my retirement and said, "Come on, you got to play." And we showed up at the Thirsties Blues Jam. Our very first time we played out beyond the basement, and we threw out threw out 4 songs, and Mark kind of yelled at us. And
he
that's
does
how
that.
we do, though.
That's what you do. You just take it. You don't ask for it. You take it.
And I sat and watched the rest of the night, and I went, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life." So I went back, and I remember the first night I got on stage with Bubba, and we whipped out 3 songs and looked at each other and went, "This is cool." And you could almost feel the
it's
electricity.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And things just started happening from there, and
it was a comment here on Facebook, like there,
Yep.
it was the nature of
How
pals
most
who met in a bar,
relationships start nowadays.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
It's really funny.
Bromance.
Couple of pokes.
But honestly, there was about maybe a year where we didn't really talk. We would just, it was a face, like I said, a Facebook like here, a poke there, whatnot. But it was a lot of fun. And then when the Powerhouse was moving on, we actually brought on a different bass player because Ed Podolsky moved to keys. He's also a keyboard player, a great one. And we brought in Anthony Vigliotti as a bass player. Yep. Another great young kid.
AV's great. He's
my God.
AV.
You want to talk
solid
about...
guy, solid bass player.
Oh, solid. Going to school for now trumpet performance.
Yeah, I knew he was a brass
musician.
player, man. He's good.
And, we did that gig for a little bit, and then, unfortunately, AV had to go back to school, as, most young adults do. So, I was sort of in a position, I was like, well, now what? And I sort of, right before that happened, I was sort of talking with Al, and it actually had, going back to when I wasn't done with you, hit a rough patch in my life. I was sort of set up to move in with this woman. And my life was in Toledo. I was getting ready to get a job in Toledo. I was going to move in with this, girl I'd been with for 4 years in Toledo, and all this, I was set up. And then it all fell through. Me and this girl broke up. Had no job. I was still living with my parents' house, which I was not planning to do. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that's how it goes, man.
And I get a little Facebook post. It says, "Hey, car parts delivery driver in Ann Arbor." And I'm like, oh, well, I need a job. So but I see it's Al who posted. I was like, yeah, Al from the Jam, he has the Jam, we'd had a conversation. I had actually hopped on one of his podcasts back in the day, where he was looking at some of the songs that I had written before the Powerhouse, when it was just, me writing songs as a kid. Yeah. And that's how, we sort of got back in touch. And then, one thing led to another. I got a job working for this guy, and tell him about the first day we were working together.
Oh, we were moving a bunch of stuff, sweating. It was hot, and I was my life was kind of crashing too a little bit. I had to give up the band I was playing in because things happened with my job, and things happened with life in general, and I just guys, I just got to stop. And we're working together, and Bubba looks at me and he goes, I think you're destined to play for me. And the rest is history.
Yeah. Because when AV went back, it was a no-brainer. When AV went to school, I was like, Al, I think I just got a job open for you.
That's awesome. I feel like most bands, every group I've been with, whether it be a short-lived group that jammed or the couple of groups I've been in there where we played regularly for an extended period of time, it's just weird. It falls like that. It just falls into place and through a series of events and stuff. So getting back to the band a little more here, what, besides gigs, what's next for Bubba Wilson and the Powerhouse? You got more recording? Do you have aspirations to get larger gigs? Yeah. Obviously, that's a generalized statement, but I'm talking, do you have what do you got?
That's the thing. We put out the EP a year ago now, and, because that's the one thing, people always forget about these musicians. They see them at the bar on Saturday night, and they're like, oh, that's what they do. No, we've all got full-time jobs, all of us.
You know how it goes, man.
I'm working 40 hours a week selling guitars in Ann Arbor. Al's selling car parts,
I'm going to be gainfully unemployed tomorrow night.
For
2 weeks.
Hey, cheers.
Which calls for nice scotch, which we happen to be sipping on here.
Yeah, Bubba brought a treat, some Glenmorangie 12-year for you Scotch fans. It's a Highland Scotch. Glenmorangie is really good. This is no different.
Yeah, it's the Kinta Reuben, which is the port cask aged.
It's smooth. Stuff. It's really good. Nice. Mine's gone already. I'm thinking about trying to do a more I want to do like on the podcast. I want to do maybe like a couple. Like the word is eluding me. I don't know, like little tidbits. I don't know what to call it. Segments, I guess.
Yeah. And
do a drink segment each time, or do.
Oh yes.
Whatever.
You're speaking to the adolescent alcoholic.
I'm just helping them get us started.
Here's the trick, kids. If you spend a lot of money, they don't feel good calling you an alcoholic.
There you go. Yeah,
makes you a connoisseur.
Yeah, exactly. He just enjoys what he does. He enjoys what he does. What's he do? He drinks.
And plays blues. It kind of goes hand in hand.
Absolutely goes hand in hand. That's great. But yeah,
no. So the next big thing for the band is probably going to be putting out some more recordings. We've been writing away. Back in the history of the band, Ed Podolsky ended up having to leave. You know, as musicians do, they come and go. And we got a guy named Rick Warner in on keys right now. And you want to talk about a freaking rock solid keyboard player? I mean,
I want to say I saw him when the Powerhouse was at Thirsties.
That wasn't Rick. That was still Ed back in the day.
Was it? Okay.
But Rick Warner is the newest addition, and he toured the world with Rare Earth.
Oh wow!
From like '86 to '98, and so he's seen the gigging world. He's opened up for the biggest acts. He's well, I mean, you consider Rare Earth, they're one of the big acts. You know, when you talk about the history of jam rock and all that sort of stuff.
So, unfortunately, in my music experiences, I've only had like one blow-away keyboard player that I play with for an extended amount of time, just in our bar cover band I was playing with, and I'm back with them now, minus the keyboard player, and we're rock solid tight, but it's just keeping my chops up, you know. I really enjoy playing with them guys. If something big comes my way, I can't guarantee I'll stay with it. I got to go where I go, but I appreciate those guys. But later on, kind of like in the first round of us playing like for 5 or 6 years, in the last year or two, we had a keyboard player. I'm not going to mention his name. Not that he's listening anyway. He played with the Temptations
Nice.
for like 10 years. Hell of a keyboard player, and he is deaf as a bat from playing. He and has honestly lost his damn mind. He's like Xanaxed out. He was like tripping over himself and shit. And so,
you know, the best musicians are crazy.
Exactly.
You know?
So when he was on, but it's like he would like, I don't know, he'd like pull up on the curb at the gig and like almost hit the bar, and like I was like, dude, should you be driving? Like it wasn't a good thing, but it was for a fleeting moment of like a year's worth of gigs. It was just so solid having the keyboard player filling up. At the time, we were 3-piece. We added him. It was like,
And I'll tell you, the difference between a bar band and a great band is a keyboard player. If you got a keyboard player that doesn't know where he belongs in the band, it can just ruin everything.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to diss on keyboard players, but with Rick, I just love him. I mean, because he's got his slot and he plays it, and it's so magical that it just adds so much.
It's
to
like
the
a trampoline
Powerhouse.
for me. I love it. I'm just sitting here bouncing on this rhythm section.
Sometimes I just would stop. I would stop playing completely.
Yep.
Just listen. I'm just like,
Bubba does that all the time.
Absolutely.
He'll go sit down in a gig.
Yeah.
We'll be playing. He just goes and sits down and watches.
That's not a joke. I'll just let them do it. I mean, you want to talk about a rock solid rhythm section? I think I've got it. I mean,
and there's not many blues bands that will do things like Lazy or like Voodoo Child the way we do it.
Oh, absolutely.
We bring Voodoo Child to a level I've never even imagined in my life.
Okay, so this is a quick story about a song, Voodoo Child, obviously, and it was one night where I think it started at the Delta Eagles, didn't it?
I think it did.
Yeah, it was at the Delta Eagles down in Delta, Ohio, the Eagles Lodge, and all of a sudden, I just had this, because it was the last song of the night, and I just had this big idea, because, you know, if you listen to Voodoo Child, it's got a similar beat, and it's in the same key as a lot of, you know, popular classic rock songs.
oh, absolutely.
So we're listening to it, and I just tell everyone, okay, get down, you know, let's just sort of simmer down a little bit. It's a high-energy song, I tell them to simmer down, and I'm like, what are the songs can I throw at these guys right now that they've never rehearsed?
Oh, yeah.
You know, that they just know in the back of their
everything in
head.
E.
So we start doing Just Got Paid by ZZ Top.
Segue.
If you listen to these songs side by side, you'll understand what we were doing.
Last Child,
yeah, Last Child by Aerosmith, Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd, and then the big one was Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin.
Oh,
and in the meantime, the root Voodoo Child, Imagine Red Hot Chili Peppers on acid trying to cover a Stevie Ray Vaughan version of Voodoo Child. That's kind of what we're doing here.
I almost wish I could say that was inaccurate.
But that's kind of where it goes. So, and sometimes we don't even know where it goes, you know. We get done and we look at each other and go, that was cool.
It normally ends with guitars on the ground getting kicked.
There you go.
Yeah, my bass feeding back on low E, and I'm like hammering on Bubba's guitar, you know.
Oh, it's great.
We get a little crazy in the end. And people look at us and go, so this is a blues band.
You should see the bars that think they're hiring a blues act.
Oh, yeah.
That's
absolutely.
the big one.
Say, Mom, sorry I took you here. I thought it was BB King.
So more recording then, huh?
Yeah,
So,
that's gonna be we've been writing.
got a timeline within the year.
I've learned really quick that if you give yourself timelines,
Absolutely.
you set yourself up for
that
disaster.
was a loaded question from the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
I would say fall. I would say fall.
I would say fall.
That would be
Fall.
reasonable.
Yeah, fall's reasonable because we're talking to the first EP we did with Mark Felder. Now, if anyone has been in Monroe for an extended period of time and has been a part of any community music program in Monroe, they'll know the name Mark Felder. He's run the Monroe Community College concert band forever. He's
Great
guy, down to earth guy, but just stellar. If you've ever seen the Dodsworth 1800s sax horn band, if you get into the old reenactment music, it's crazy. It's a crazy show. Big props to Mark Felder because he's not normally used to taking in bands to do recordings like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we did the EP, I was in this community band playing trombone, and I approached him and said, "Hey, you've got a home studio with some cutting edge technology, and we don't have an ass load of money, but we got some. We've got enough. If he gave us a quote, and we pushed out that EP. God, a year ago now, Al."
And the funny thing, I hadn't been playing for you that long.
No, at that point, Al had been playing with us for one gig, and that gig was the Detroit Blues Challenge.
Yeah. Well, I did the semifinals.
Yeah, the semifinals.
And I didn't even comprehend what we were doing. He's like, "Yeah, it's a competition." So I was like, "All right." So I get up on stage and I just do my best, and it's like, "Hey, you guys won. You're going to Callahan's," and I went, "Hooray!"
You're like,
what's that mean?
You can see him going home, putting on his glasses, breaking out the atlas or the book or whatever. Yeah. What am I doing here? What do I do? I don't know what to do.
And then I find out Callahan's is like where Freddie Castro plays and all these people that I just love. I'm going,
Jim McCarty.
I squealed
Detroit
like a little girl. I fangirled when I found that all out. I was like, I'm going to play on the same stage. and it was about that realistic. When we were up there, I'm looking around going, there's been legends right where I'm standing.
When I played at Buddy Guy's Legends in Chicago, I didn't want to stand up there, man.
Yeah.
And it was just for an open mic there. I was 15 when I did it. It was before I jammed at Thirsties. It was like a month before I first jammed at Thirsties.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm approaching 25. That was like a 10-year-old's
and
lifetime
you've been
ago.
There a lot longer than I have.
Almost
Holy
10 years.
hell.
Almost 10 years, man. Like 9.5.
So new music's on the horizon. We've been writing. We've almost got an album's worth of music written. For the first time ever, we've got a rock solid manager who's on our side. Which is you have to understand where we were a little bar band. We weren't expecting no management to come in. But Levon Kajawa, from who used to be the president of the Black Swamp Blues Society, he's been such a great help, and has just been busting ass for us, and putting our name out there, making press kits, and really just talking to the right people for us.
There comes a time, even if you're a bar band, whatever, you start putting your own original music out. Even if you're just a bar band and a cover band, if you're not willing to do it yourself, you need someone that's going to go up to bat for you. Because I remember telling people that my bar band did contracts with bars because we got fucked.
Yep.
We got fucked. They didn't have the turnout they wanted. Man. They promised us, 120 a man or 200, whatever we got, and they wanted to go back on it. And I said, we ended up getting the money still. Trust me. I've had all kinds of threats.
For the people who haven't seen a picture of Blair, he's an intimidating presence. Not too tall, but.
He can do some damage. He looks like he could do some damage.
Comes to mind.
Yeah,
Not necessarily
exactly.
the largest thing that can come at you, but
leg.
It's definitely one of the scariest things.
Well, and I have been down that road with country music, and we got to a point where we were on the cusp of making it. We never did, but that's history. But we learned early on, if you have a specific contract and you ask for specific things and they sign that contract, you're going to get what you want most of the time.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they're going to forfeit money and you're going to get back in your bus and you're going to go to the next gig.
Yep.
Yeah,
people kind of laugh like, really, you got to have a you're playing a local mon pa gig, and it's like, those are the ones. I'm sorry. Yep. There is a very volatile relationship between bands and bar owners. It can be explosively good or explosively bad.
And when you walk into a bar and they don't have good electricity,
and
you blow your $10,000 board that you just bought,
absolutely,
that's when you think, oh my gosh, we need to get a contract. Well, then it's too late.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. I've had problems where all the way down to little things like we were promised X amount of a tab for food or drink, and that was part of the gig. And it's, of course, that's just an extra. And most musicians, when they're playing locally, they'll sacrifice a bit of money to get a gig, because it's a cliche thing to say that it's not all about the money, but sooner or later you need some money. You need some fucking money.
That being said, when you're working part time and trying to pay for music gear, and they said they'll give you a sandwich and they don't give you a sandwich. I don't know if anyone's ever been hungry before and had $3.50 in their wallet. But when someone promises you a sandwich and you're broke and you don't get a sandwich, you get irritable real quick.
Yeah, it sucks, man.
It means the difference between a bad gig and a good gig a lot of the times. And quite honestly, my experience has been that when you do go into a venue, no matter what venue it is, and you've got a contract, number one, what's somebody gonna respect more? A ring that's fake and has cubic zirconia, or a diamond ring? What are they going to expect more?
Yep.
If you walk in there with a contract, they're in it. They bought into it. So they have to respect it more. Otherwise, they're going to lose.
Exactly.
So they're going to treat it differently.
Yeah, I got a quick story dealing with that. I've dealt with several bar owners over the years, and about 90-ish% of the time, I'd say it's been good. There's been like another 5 or 7% that's been not desirable, and then there's been a handful of times that have just been downright shitty. And one that comes to mind, I was playing in a bar in, I guess I'd consider it Brownstown, but anyway, and we'd played there a couple times, and when we first asked about gigging there, he asked if we had a following, and I'm like, well, we got like 15 or 20 people that come to every one of our shows. And he said, well, we have good Saturday nights. That sounds good. You get this money. You get a dinner. You get X amount of drinks. Cool. Do it. It's good. He comes through on it. The first time was awesome. Second time we play, he makes little comments afterwards, like, I really didn't get the turnout we really wanted.
I've heard that a million
Oh,
times.
yeah.
Haven't we all heard that one?
Yep.
So then that
God, we were
happens.
looking forward to it.
It happens maybe another time after that. Then we play a New Year's gig there. And he was always like, make sure you guys are advertising for this. And we're like, we always do. We did our thing. And, our 20 people, all but, a few couples, it's New Year's. They had some shit they were going to. They had a party, whatever. And so it was not dead by any means. The place was packed. Now, I've seen a real New Year's gig go great, and I know what it can be like, and it wasn't like that. But it was packed. It was not dead by any means. And literally, the only thing they had advertising was, they had a Facebook page, everything, didn't say a word about it. On their little marquee up front, it said, New Year's party.
Oh.
On a little
not live
slide,
music.
Yeah, New Year's little slide
not
letter
New Year's
piece of
party
shit,
featuring
like 5 feet by 3 feet illuminated sign, and we got turned down our dinner that night beforehand. That already pissed me off. Only because I don't have to have that dinner, but I was expecting it because that was the deal.
Right.
And we didn't have a contract for this gig. Actually, in my opinion, this is a straw that broke the camel's back as far as contracts go, because I was pissed. And I was only like 19 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you learned young. Ben.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the waitress comes up and takes our order, and we're like, we're with the band, we get a meal. And she's like, all right, I just need to confirm that with my whomever. I'm like, no, that's cool. We each have this, whatever. She comes back, and she talks to so-and-so, who's the owner. And I'm semi-respectful on here. I'm not going to say certain people's names, in case I ever want to gig there again. My hypocrisy only goes so far.
Oh,
That's right.
A gig's a gig, man.
That's right.
So, but anyway, she comes back and goes, yeah, so-and-so, who's the owner, said that there's not going to be anything like that tonight. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm like, whatever. So, luckily, I never abused it. I didn't get no prime rib. I always got like a burger.
Right.
Right.
So I get pay for my burger, no big deal. And we still get our drinks. We play. We had a 4-piece band, $500, 125 guy, and we usually like to get more than that on New Year's, but since that was the rate of the other shows, it was enough for me. It was like 30 minutes away.
Guaranteed money's guaranteed money.
Exactly.
Right.
So cool.
You might not gamble with it.
So he wanted to give us $300 at the end of the night.
Oh, I bet he did.
So almost only half. And he's like, well, we didn't get the crowd we wanted, and blah, blah, blah. And every other time I bit my cheek, and I finally kind of let him have it. I was
Well, yeah.
And this was the time I've had to fight for my money. I was like, dude, you didn't do any advertising. We are the entertainment. If we have a following, that helps you, but you're in charge of bringing the people in here. That's why you hired us. We are a tool for you. You are the owner. You're the one that's going to win or lose.
Use the tool.
Yep.
Put a little effort in, and he didn't. That just really...
I call that the Darth Vader syndrome. I've altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it further. It's like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Exactly.
Well, coming from my perspective, I've been fucked over before as well. Everyone has. If you're a gigging musician, you haven't been fucked over, then good God, don't walk outside your house because it's going to happen.
That's right.
The thing that I've learned from gigging for how many years now is if you have this isn't about musicians. This isn't about anything. If you have a craft or a skill or anything that you hold dear to your heart that you can do well, treat it like a job. If you want, if you have an opportunity to do something for the rest of your life that could possibly feed you and your kids, treat it like a job. Don't let someone make it a job for you. Treat it like a job. Clock in and clock out.
Yep.
Mark up your hours. Put some time in. Understand what you're worth.
And that,
you will never work a day in your life. If you treat your skill or your hobby like a job, you'll never work a day.
Yep.
And that being said, I mean, you do have to give back a little bit to a community. I've always tried to do something for like American Cancer Society or something like that since day one.
Any benefit gig I've always been a part of.
But I agree with Bubba 100%. If you don't let them know up front that you are a business person first and foremost, and hopefully some of the younger generation is listening to this and absorbing it, because we're talking about the behind the scenes part of music that most people don't get until they've been screwed over several times. Exactly. And then they go, hey, we should change this. Going into it, have self-confidence. You're an artist. Get paid for what you do.
Absolutely. And now it's got to be a paper trail because long gone are the Freddie King or Albert King days where you're some monstrous man and you carry a pistol anyway because you want to make sure you get paid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just get a paper trail and it kind of alleviates all that.
It's just everyone being a 21-year-old, I've been accused of being lazy many times without any merit beforehand.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
I have with merit too though.
Oh yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. No one should try to pretend like they haven't been lazy before. But
exactly.
When it comes to that preconception, don't let anyone think that you're here for a free meal. You know what I mean? If you bust your ass and like I say, I apply it to music because that's what I plan to do for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? But don't let anyone find a wedge in between you and what you're doing. Well, if you run a tight ship, no one can do anything to you.
Relating to that, one of the segments I want to do is shit my dad says. But my dad always told me, especially with music, is don't get it twisted. Do not think that you need them more than they need you.
Yep.
It's at the best, it's a balance.
It's a mutual relationship.
Or it's more they need you.
Yep.
They need the entertainment. You can find a gig. I think it's probably about even a bar being able to find a band and a band being able to find a gig. That's generally speaking, not some ass garage crap band, obviously. Right. There's a million of those.
Well,
but
anyone who's run around to the age of 40 can remember, because I wasn't around for it, but I've heard these stories from these old gigging musicians. There was a time right before all the drunk driving laws passed.
Yeah.
And there was no issue. There were not only good bands, great bands playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 4 days a week. The same band across the bar. And they'd get $1,000. Bam. There's $1,000.
Yep. I was in that era.
You know what I mean? And you just got paid $1,000 for the weekend, and that was it. But then the drunk driving laws happened. And everything fell off the face of the earth. And then... And I hate to say the bad bands, but it's what it is. The bad bands, the garage bands who, let's get together and jam.
The play for less bands.
Yes, exactly.
$200 a night. And
we just want to play bands.
Exactly.
And then the bar got to say, we have live music. And then they'd tell the band, just keep it down. We've got them here. We'll keep them here with the drink specials. It's as simple as that.
I have literally been told, and I'm not going to name the venue, but it's huge and it's very close to us in the Detroit area. And this is back in the day when all this was just starting to happen, what Bubba's talking about.
Yeah.
They said, they said they wanted my country band to play there. This is back in the country days. And they said, what do you charge? And we said, we charge $1,000 a night to start. Well, and this is their exact words. all we need is a band that can keep a beat, and we'll pay them $300 a night. We don't need people like you. And you know what our response was? Okay. And we went on to the next venue, and they paid us $1,000 a night.
Exactly.
And I've watched this downfall of the music scene, you know, and you're right. The tighter, and not to get political, but the tighter that the police wrapped around the drunk drivers, the tighter the laws wrapped around the drunk drivers. Just not too far away from here, we used to pack a place not too far away from here with the Lazy River band that I played in for about 9 years.
Yep.
By the way, just to interrupt, if $100 out of my wallet means 2 people live another night, yeah, that's not what we're saying. We're glad that these drunk driving laws exist because while we were filling our pockets full of money, these kids were dying. So
exactly.
Don't think we're these money hungry musicians.
You know what you're doing? You're just stating the facts of what happened. These are statistics. These are not.
I want to make sure people didn't think we were these money.
You're exactly right. You know, we want people to live because we want you at our next gig so we can get more money. Well, but we've watched them go from packed venues to usually about midnight. Everybody disperses and they're gone. And then when the non-smoking laws kicked in,
that killed a lot of shit.
I would not buy a bar. If you promised me that it would be lucrative, I would think twice about buying any bar.
Yeah. Man, real quick side note, you guys are I have a list of little subjects to hit back to, and we're just fucking blowing through it, and I'm not even bringing them up. We just guys are just hitting them. But yeah, as far as that stuff has taken a hit, and the bitch of it is it doesn't have to be that way, but people, another statistic, and not everyone is like us. Like, I love to drink and have a good time, but if I'm going out, say Hannah and I are going out to see a band, if she wants to drink, I won't. Easy. Right. I'll stay till 2 a.m. watching the band if the band's good. Then again,
you and I are like within our 20s. This is the way. Once we started drinking, that was just the way it was.
Exactly.
There wasn't this whole concept of let's all go out and get drunk.
And we
grew up with the DD. There's always a DD.
Some of us I had to learn the hard way.
Oh yeah.
But it's just one of those things that you don't have to. People like getting drunk more than they like watching live music, and so that kills live music. That's just the way it goes, you know. And the smoking thing just did it even more. I think that's starting to be less of a factor now.
Hopefully,
yeah. All right, so one thing I really want to get to, though, that I've been thinking about too, and it kind of relates to it kind of being difficult to be a live band nowadays, and this is more for Al. But it still it's very relevant today. Karaoke. Do you feel like karaoke's put a big dent in live music? Because I heard when karaoke came on the scene initially, it killed live bands at smaller bars because you can pay some asshole, you know, $200 and he's thrilled and he can run karaoke and fill the bar still. You know, you think that's been quite a factor?
Well, I learned and I coined this philosophy many years ago, and I stick to it. A long time ago, I had a situation happen, and I come up with this thinking: never give an idiot an open mic, and it's held true to this day. Yes, I think karaoke has whored out the live music industry, and I think electronic music, you know, pre-recorded electronic music, and I don't want to demean anybody that's trying to get
it's
their
still
voice
music.
heard.
We're just talking purely from how it's affected live music.
I think the art of live music is not as appreciated as it used to be. And to tell you the truth, and this is just going off chasing a rabbit for just a second. I grew up in Adrian, and you know it's a big Latino community. And I can tell you right now, Mexicans love their live music. I have never seen a culture so supportive of live bands as the Mexican culture. And I laud them for that. I really do. Because you get a good Mexican band, and I've got great friends that play, you know. Like I said, I grew up with these people. Man, moms, dads, cousins, aunts, uncles, you name it, they come out and they support these people, and they stay there all night, and they pay money, and they dance. We could learn from that as an industry. You know, if we could get that kind of support for just any band that's playing, it would be wonderful.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. I don't fully understand the dynamic of it, but nowadays, and I see it being a young man, young musician, actually, that people are selfish, and I feel like we've all been guilty of it. But as a musician, I don't go see other local acts enough.
And shame on me. I'm the same way.
Exactly.
You know, I've got really good friends that play, and I really, if I've got the night off, I really should be going and seeing them. I feel
Absolutely.
horrible because I don't. A lot of it's because I'm kind of an introvert.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
that's
and
just
another
what it
part
is.
of it is we don't want to get caught drunk driving. You know what I mean? And we fall into that same soup of, people who want to go out and have a good time, but then,
Yeah.
it's scary.
I see people all the time that you've told all, and they're always like, "Oh, let me know when you're playing. Let me know when you're playing, man. Let me know when you're playing." And it's like, "All right, motherfucker, I'm playing this weekend." And you're like, and they're like, "All right, I might be there." They don't got the balls to say, "I can't be there," or "I'm not going to be there." They're like, "Oh yeah, I might be there," and they never show up. And then when they start doing something, they're like, "Oh, share my this. I just recorded this." Blah. And it's like, dude, where were you? I've been doing this for 10 years
Drop
now.
my mixtape,
yeah,
bro. Share it on
yeah,
Facebook.
where you
Yep.
been? Where you been, man? I've been out here busting balls, and you just expect the same amount of respect, and it's just not there. I respect you for trying to do what you love. I respect anyone for that, even if I don't like what you love.
Well, we'll get back to karaoke, but I think a great example of that has got to be, Laith Al-Sadi right now.
Right.
If you don't know who he is, get out from underneath your rock. He was on The Voice from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Got into, fourth place?
Yep.
In the finals.
He killed it the whole time, though, man.
But,
Damn.
you ask him, and you ask anybody in this area, he's been putting in his hours as a, gigging, songwriting, musician, bar band, whatever you want to call it, for years. He's been putting in his hours. He's been, taking
Yep.
his strokes. And now that he's this big, oh, you were on TV. Now you're you're a real entertainer. You've been on television. You know what I mean?
They think he just got discovered, and
No, he's been around for forever.
it's just like when people want you to teach them to play an instrument. They're like, "Well, how'd you learn?" It's like, "Well, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours all the time."
I mean, my schoolwork suffered.
Absolutely.
My ability to get a job has suffered for playing
And
guitar.
I think you could almost draw the correlation between a nerdy introvert and how great of a musician they are.
There you go.
Because that's
You're
kind
a
of what it
fine
was.
example, sir.
I am.
You look at Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Pink Floyd and may I be so bold as the Alan Parsons Project.
Yeah.
You're talking about these guys didn't have social lives. They didn't have friends.
Well, and
Yeah.
if we want to get on that tangent too, you see it. A lot of these guys don't handle fame because they're not. They have lived for their music, and and people wonder why. It's like, well, how can someone hate their life when they're not famous? It's like that doesn't drive them. Their music drives them, sure. And so that's the only thing kind of keeping them afloat. And that's why you see a lot of like not even rock stars, just famous musicians battle with addiction, battle with depression, because as soon as the music is compromised by drugs, by the, they turn away from the spotlight, or they want to deal with it, just like anything in life. And it shouldn't be surprising.
No.
Well, and I'll say, this is not detract from the people who have loved what we do, me and Al do. But there are, there's something to be said about going out and just going to the grocery store in your local town, or taking a trip to another town, and someone just runs into you, "Hey, I love what you do. Thanks for playing music." And you do not recognize their face. You don't know who they are. You don't know where you met them, but they expect you to remember.
Yeah.
I'm not famous by any means, but that happens. I'm sure you've experienced it too. Someone who's seen you play music and remembers your face because they stared at it for 2 hours straight, but you stared at a blinding light for 2 hours.
Yep.
And then you experience that. It's really uncomfortable when you don't know who you're talking to, but they talk to you as though they know you on a personal level. And at first, that's a great feeling. It's like, oh yeah, someone knows me. Someone spotted me out and appreciates what I do. I'll always thank people who appreciate what I do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no supplement for that.
But getting back to the whole the karaoke thing, and quite honestly, I've DJ'd myself. You could also loop the whole DJ scene into it too. To me, it's two different things. And I would like to hope that people see it as two different things.
Well, and it's also two different crowds.
Yeah, and
if you want to market it that way,
right, and if you're brave enough to get up in front of people in a karaoke machine and sing your heart out, God bless you, go ahead.
Exactly.
Well,
And who knows where it's going to
do
lead.
that.
Yeah,
People will come and bring a group of friends to a karaoke DJ, and that bar will rake it in. And you can't get upset at the bars.
No,
for that.
I'm definitely not. Like we said, we're just talking facts here. It's just the way it is, and this is this is Perception Uncut. So if you're offended by what we say, fuck off and listen to what else we say because, yeah, I applaud people. Dude, you want to know something? I've sang out quite a bit, especially the last couple years. I've actually started really singing.
By the way.
I've karaoke'd like twice in my whole life. It wigs me the fuck out.
I think I've done it once.
It wigs me out, though. It does wig me out. It's different.
I can remember the last song I karaoke'd to. You know what it was?
What?
It was for freaking band practice. I karaoke'd because I walked into a bar and they were doing karaoke. And I was like, you know what? I need to reherse this before band practice.
My God, please tell me it wasn't Don't Stop Believing.
Fuck you. Absolutely fuck you. No, it was...
falsettos
it was...
Yeah. You gotta be like that Asian cat they got now, man. He's dope.
No, it was Still Got the Blues by Gary Moore.
Oh, I love that song. And we do that song, too, and I love that
And you want to talk about a deadpan karaoke audience. Singing Gary Moore at a karaoke bar.
Real quick, do you ever hear the Santana song? Was it Europa?
Yeah. Absolutely. We do that.
It's the same song. It's the same song.
Yeah, it's the same damn song.
It's the chord progression is very similar.
Yeah. But the last song I karaoke'd was up north. Hannah and I were touring wedding venues. We're getting married, not Traverse City, but Benzie County, which is right there.
Yep.
And we stayed with my cousin, Doug. I'm going to force you to listen to this. He's a good time, and he took us out, and I vowed I wouldn't sing karaoke, but 2 bars and several drinks later, I sang a Sublime song, killed it. Really, I did, because it's not hard. So, and then I sang Disturbia by Rihanna. and
I would pay money to hop in a time machine right now
and see that. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I was heavily influenced by Hannah because she's like a diehard Rihanna girl.
Lord.
Which I have a decent amount of patience for. I actually enjoy some of it, and actually I play guitar over it. If she's listening to it, I'll be over there just playing leads over it.
It's so much fun because you talk about it's. I actually played a little stop and go gig for a young girl who was a friend of a friend of a friend, and we did what is it? Oh God, it was "Love on the Brain" by Rihanna.
Yeah,
which is just a great little, honestly, a great little blues tune.
It's got like a 50s chord progression, which is also
for you musicians out there, it's a 1-2-6-5. It's just a simple little. Almost Etta James-esque blues tunes.
Boom, 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 boom,
yeah.
boom.
And then it goes to the minor.
Yep. Same
minor.
Same song is country tune, Little Big Town Girl Crush.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
The same.
Same progression, which is cool. I dig it. I can dig that.
I don't even know if I should say what I did karaoke.
Do it. Come on now. Come on.
We all showed our scars.
As long as it's just us, right?
Yeah, ain't no one listening to this shit.
Just us 3 in this room.
It was Prince. Kiss.
Oh no!
Kiss. And I tore it up. I falsettoed the whole thing, tore it up, had everybody on the tables dancing.
My God.
And I did the whole, Prince thing with it too. And,
yeah.
What year would that have been, Al? Please don't say last weekend, because I'll have to leave you.
You're fired. I don't even remember. It was a long time ago. It was back when karaoke first really started kicking in.
And I'm sure Prince was the king of all
Prince was the king of all music when I was still in high school. Okay, that was sad. Because I remember all the girls going, "We're going to go see Prince, 1999." I'm going, this is a little... I can't say that, okay. But, this is 2017. I got to be a little bit PC.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is,
you were just jealous.
Yeah, the flash forward.
He was having more sex with more women than any of us. So you can say almost whatever you want.
On the surface, he seemed flamboyantly gay, but really he was.
It got him.
Dude, he was reeling them.
I had 10 fingers and 10 toes, and they were using all 20 to keep the closet door closed, right?
Wow.
That's a drive-by truckers lyric, just in case anybody's wondering. Okay,
I like drive-by truckers.
Yeah. But anyways, I remember doing a parody Prince song in a band that I played in college in the 80s, just because I loathed Prince. And then you flash forward many years, and Ray Lewis, the drummer in the Lazy River band that I was playing for, I went over his garage one time. He's a huge Prince fan, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching a live video. This guy's garage is tricked out, okay, and he's working.
Is it purple?
No, it's not.
Oh,
it's
man.
not purple, but it's the coolest garage you've ever seen. and he's got a big screen TV, and he's playing a live Prince DVD. And I'm watching Prince play Whole Lotta Love, and he's just shredding the guitar.
Oh, he's good as fuck.
And I went, wow.
You know what it took for me to realize that with Prince is watching him several years ago. I forget who they were inducting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he plays.
While My Guitar Gently
yes,
Weeps.
with Tom
I've
Petty
seen
singing.
that.
Oh my
And
god!
by that time, I was going. I went back and I started listening to some of his stuff, and I went, wow. And then I realized that he did all of his music, bass, keyboards, drums.
Yep. See,
Like, the guy's a genius.
he's a guy that I respect in a lot of ways. Respected, obviously, rest in peace, Prince, artist formerly known as Prince, whatever he called himself at the end.
He was. We pretend he wasn't an asshole.
Yeah,
because he's dead. He's
yeah.
still
No,
an
no,
asshole.
I don't pretend, man. Yeah. But now you got me all off track. Now,
Sorry,
he did actually, looking back in retrospect, he did a good job of doing what he had to break out as a pop artist.
Yep.
But he did what he wanted still. He still had he had good musicianship. He was a musician. He wasn't a pop singer. He was a musician, and I dig that. You see it less and less and less and less.
And what's really sad, whether you want to admit you're influenced by him or not, I remember the first time I heard, what's her name? All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun.
Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, Sheryl Crow. I'm listening to that for the first time, and I went, Prince wrote that.
And he did, didn't he?
Yeah, and somebody went, no. I went, no, listen to the lyrics. Either he wrote it or helped write it. And I think he was helped write
Like a co-writer type
Yeah,
thing.
co-writer.
Yeah.
But I could tell it was his. That was his
It was his
lyrics.
shtick.
Yeah, because he could paint
You can almost hear it in the production.
Yeah.
Sort of multi-layers thing going on.
Exactly.
Well, and I think, I haven't been attributed to it yet, but, everyone always tells me, when I was a kid, this band, I didn't like them. But now that I'm older, I can sit there and appreciate them in a way that I didn't know. You've mentioned AC/DC.
Yeah, I hated AC/DC when they first came out. And everybody goes,
That's blasphemy.
That's
for this
blasphemy.
fella, for
Yes.
Bubba.
But you have to
Oh.
imagine being,
When
AC/DC
I
in
first
70.
when I first met Bubba, I thought he was Angus Young. He had
right.
a SG,
But
he had a
think about
hat, he had the hair.
76. You think about 76, you got what's going on in 76,
Yep.
what I
Think
mean?
about-
You got Bob Seger, you got all these great rock bands, and then you got
Yep.
these punk kids out of Australia coming in
Yep.
thinking they
Right.
can do rock and roll.
well, and you think about this, and we're used to at the time, and like I said, I lived through this. You're dealing with Rush. You're dealing with basically Black Sabbath. You're dealing with these high energy bands with tons of drums, tons of bass, tons of guitar. Just everything's going crazy. And all of a sudden, right in the middle of it, plops down this band that plays this simple beat.
Yeah, they were a little.
But still brought an energy to it. Like no cover band
It
can
could
do.
seem that they were kind of late to their era.
Yeah.
In a way, to me.
Well, actually, they ended up being trendsetters.
Absolutely, they
You know,
did.
because I remember hearing them and I went, anybody could play that.
Yeah.
But that's just it. And you look
Exactly.
back now,
You
it's like
can't.
Tom Petty. I
Exactly.
really didn't care for Tom Petty.
I still
But-
kind of don't. And
Well-
fuck the Eagles too, by the way.
But the thing,
While I'm on the
but
subject.
the thing about it is that simple music. I mean, you can put this to a lot of musicians. Willie Nelson, Tom Petty, a lot of these people. Anybody can sing their stuff, but therein lies their appeal. Anybody can sing with them while they're on the radio.
Yeah, and it's still theirs. They have to have an it factor for that to be,
Oh yeah, and Bubba can attest to this, and I'm going to admit this. I can sing AC/DC songs.
Hell yeah.
Better than anyone I've ever met.
I'll tell you what, I am of the mind. I like Bon Scott AC/DC so much more, but I have
Same here.
I
I
have
think that's pretty. When it
Yeah.
comes to us blues guys, the
Yeah,
Bon Scott
well,
AC/DC
oh,
era
yeah.
was it.
Yes.
And then
no diss to Brian Johnson.
Brian
but-
Johnson came. There was no one else that could have done.
Exactly.
Could have
No
filled the
one.
spot, but Brian Johnson.
Right.
But it's still
I
compared
feel
to
bad
reissue to
because
the original. You know what I
Brian
mean?
Johnson's like deaf as shit. Is Malcolm Young dead yet? Because he's about to be. I
Oh,
heard.
that poor fuck.
I don't
I
think
know.
they've even notified him he's dead yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude, he's
he
been
probably
dead
is,
for
but no one
30
told him.
He
years.
hasn't got official notice.
He died the same night Bon Scott did, and they didn't tell him yet, and he's
Yeah.
just a corpse alive.
Hey, what's wrong with me? My finger just fell off.
Shush,
You're okay.
shush.
Just keep playing.
We've got money to make off you by putting your name on underwear and shit. Is anyone else pissed off about the branding behind AC/DC over the past 10 years?
yeah.
You can't walk into any Kmart, Meijer, anything without AC/DC
And I think
branded
that's what
everything.
that's what has made people not like them. That's what makes me not like people or like
Oh, yeah,
artists,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And that's a damn shame because it's not the artist's fault usually. Most of the
Yeah.
time,
They're just
I
trying
don't
to
like
make money,
artists
man.
because of their fans. You
Right.
know, like I don't like certain football teams because they're fucking fans.
Exactly.
Fuck Pittsburgh
Wolverines.
Steelers. I
Well,
hate
I
hate the Cowboys. I don't like the Wolverines because I'm a Michigan State
Well,
fan.
that's the
but-
thing. Me and Al work in Ann Arbor, and the most wretched fans you'll ever
Oh,
meet are,
yeah.
are
I can't really
Wolverine
say that
fans.
they're my boss now. So
Yeah, that's all
I
for
have to
record.
lay off. But in the
Okay, I'll
past,
say it for them. Wolverines fans, yeah, if you're a student, cool. But I'm talking about the 70-year-olds who don't buy the tickets, who say everyone else's team sucks because they had a friend go to U
Yep.
of M and it's the way it goes. You know what I mean?
I feel like you can't argue with them because
No, there's no argument at all.
watch this because they're kind of like liberals.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to get on that, so we ain't getting
Oh,
on that.
no.
Stop.
and now the new podcast is Sports Talk with Bubba.
So anyway, turning gears here a little bit. Well, no, still related. I feel like even though it's still alive and well, it is still alive and well, and you see resurgences and like relating to this question, people like hate on a lot of new music, like indie music and like back when emo but all these things, I do have an underlying respect because what we've been talking about, live music. And I feel like live music is endangered, and it has been for a long time. Do you think it's just gonna kind of remain not great, but still be there? Do you think we're on a downward spiral with that? What do you think about what's the future of live music looking like?
Yeah, let Bubba do that.
Well,
and then I'll
I have a
respond.
really interesting story because this is a story not about old, bar guys. This is about young kids. I work at a music store up in Ann Arbor, and through this music store, I've met a few friends, younger kids, 20, 21, 22, and we played both of these kids were playing in two different bands at an event up at a club, and it was a small club that supports small independent music. They can't pay anything. They pay the bands the door. They split the door. That's what we do, and it's a matter of you do what you can do. And there was an event. I played trombone with one band because they had a horn section,
Jesus, Murphy,
but it
that's
wasn't.
awesome.
But it wasn't like a blues horn section. It was just like this arty sort of noise band, art rock kind of thing that I played with them. And then
There a little bit.
Then I played keys with a pop punk band. We got some high energy stuff going on, so some modern high energy rock. And a band came from Buffalo, New York. They were on tour. Now imagine a bus full of 21, 22-year-olds getting in an old, early 2000s Dodge van with everything that they own, right? They just got the van that they could, and they got in and they went. They had dates set up for Chicago, up in Wisconsin, back down through Illinois. They had dates set up. Well, they get to our gig, they unload their stuff, they start loading it back in, and their entire front end falls out from underneath them.
Oh, wow.
What do you do? You know what I mean? These kids, and we didn't, this was a gig where at the last minute they pulled it out and said it was 21 and over because they had inspectors coming in. So, first of all, we had half the turnout we expected, which doesn't bother the bar at all. It completely cuts into, the door.
Yeah, your money.
It cuts into our money. I understand why they did it. It's when a bar gets shut down for serving underage, that's scary. I don't blame them for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we had no notice. They cut it down to 21 and under, and then we weren't going to get more than $50 a band. The door was $5. This bar wasn't putting up anything, and I don't hardly blame them. The kids come in and they don't buy a lot of drinks. It's the nature of this live music. But with everything going on, it was really upsetting because these kids were stuck in Ann Arbor. They had their cell phones. And about $200 cash.
So what happened?
So what happened is they had a friend in New York who was able to bring them a new van. Right? They had a friend and, so they could get back to New York after they dropped off this new van. Thank God. Because they didn't have a plan. They did not have a plan. They only had to cancel one date. They had to, But there's actually, if you there's video online of they demolished the van for the scrap. They could not save this van, so they sold the van to a scrapyard and had it crushed so they could eat.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
what
to
it's all
answer your
about.
question, live music ain't going nowhere. No. As long as there's kids in a van and there's people who care about live music, it ain't going anywhere.
And I really agree with Bubba on this. Is I've been in the live music scene for a few years now, and I've watched it wane a little bit, and I've watched it come back. It's going to go up and down. But what encourages me is I'm seeing people like you two right here, that you're picking up the torch and running with it. And I'm seeing people coming to watch you your age. And that's encouraging, because I remember the days when, and I'm not trying to live my past, but I remember the days when the mainstream, in Adrian, it started out as a disco. Yeah. And then they stopped it being a disco. And I remember going there and having nights where it was so packed they wouldn't allow anybody else to walk into the place.
That's a good feeling as a band, though.
And we're playing country, and it looks like a mosh pit on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Well, that was right at the turning point of country when it stopped being your mom and dad's music.
Right.
Back in the days, when it was talking about drinking and gambling, and it started turning into party music. Right at that turning point. Is when
okay. Here's the thing too.
Stuff.
That's why I have faith in country music, and I despise most pop country here on the radio. I think some
get
of it's
another beer and hug your woman and get in the truck and let's have a party.
Well,
but I like that it's guitar driven. But I think at its core, it's real music, and I think you see flashes of it coming back to that, and that's why I've always dug Southern rock. I'm really into, on a closely related tangent, I'm really into bluegrass, but not like gospel bluegrass, like kind of like anti-gospel bluegrass, like newgrass,
the sort of driving,
sort of drinking your life away, gambling, like you're talking about, like outlaw country bluegrass.
Well, that's what country was.
Yeah. Outlaw country, I mean, that's the only country I listen to, really, as a rule. I can't stand the new stuff. Yeah. It's too electronic. It's too formulated. It's going the way that the hair bands went just before grunge kicked in. It's very formulated. Everybody's got a guy that sounds just like everybody else on the labels.
Absolutely.
And I'm watching it crash. That being said, now let's take the big picture.
Are you talking about country grunge coming through here?
No, actually, what I'm talking, the realism of the whole thing. One of the things that I'm watching is blues catch on. And I'm watching because, and really quite honestly, I mean, this is why Bubba and I are here. I'm watching blues catch on because it's one of the last pure musics that's out there.
The final frontier.
Yeah, it is. You listen to these blues, and I try, I one day I sat down and I tried to remember, when did I start liking blues? And really, I could trace it all the way back to listening to Elvis sing Blue Christmas, on a vinyl when I was a little kid.
Awesome.
And I was like, this rocks, But listening to B.B. King sing The Thrill Is Gone the first time I heard it, it was coming out of his soul.
Absolutely.
Hannah
knows a little something about Thrill Is Gone, don't you, babe? That's a story for off the air.
All right. Well, and then you go to you start listening to some of that stuff, and one of the songs that a lot of people don't know about B.B. King, it's called "Chains and Things."
Yeah, I'm familiar.
And it almost makes you cry listening to it. Yeah, but it's such a pure song, and it's coming, and that's why I made the switch from country into blues, because it's so pure. It's coming out of your soul. It's coming out of your heart. Watching Bubba sing, listening to him sing some of the songs he does, it's not formulated. It's not, I'm just writing this to write it. It's coming out of his soul.
Absolutely. That's kind of a problem I have with, and I'm being picky here because, like I said, if you're out playing and you're out doing your thing,
power to you.
That respect is there. No matter your genre, I might not pay money to come see you, but I'll support you any way I can. And one guy that is always too formulated, and I think he's one of, if not the greatest guitar player alive, Joe Bonamassa. He's not.
Great example.
He's not. He doesn't have that grit. It's not a natural thing. Now he is lights out.
Yes,
he is amazing.
He is.
Even as a songwriter, as a performer,
he is amazing. Things. But he's got that stiffness. He didn't live it.
Say, by any paper set of rules, he nailed it. But and like talking about that, there's still a place for that. I don't think that doesn't have a place, because when I want to sit down and listen to he's the what I'll say, he is the Rush of blues.
Oh yes,
don't sit there and think that you're gonna start crying, but you're gonna think about it in a different way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. He's like the sheriff of that new frontier of blues. And I think blues has been revived by people like him, so I have the utmost respect. But if I'm going to pick him apart, I'm going to say that he doesn't have that grittiness.
It's not that soul.
He
doesn't
tries
have
to, but he's...
the soul.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It all boils down to the same phrase that they've been using forever in blues. Blues is a good man feeling bad.
There you go.
And that's what it all boils down to.
And Joe hasn't felt bad.
You know what, though?
You know what I mean? He grew up in upstate
I'm going to
New
play
York.
devil's advocate and say maybe it can be also a bad man feeling good.
That could be too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think going back to country for a second, a good example, like I was telling you guys before we started this, my sister lives in Nashville. You go down the main strip, and there are some of the best cover bands that you've ever seen.
I can attest to that. I lived there for 2 years.
But that's what it is, though. It's people think that there's all these big country artists that make their name on Broadway. Yes, they make their name in Nashville. Yes, they were discovered. They worked their way up in Nashville. Those bands are trying to make a living, and they're very good, but they're just all bar cover bands, and they're all really good, like I said. But those aren't the honky tonks that you hear about. That's just not it anymore, and that's kind of what's wrong with country. But I can't take it away from them because I'd probably be doing the same thing, you know.
And it all boils down to the philosophy. What's the difference between Willie Nelson and I don't know who's one of the
I got one.
modern
Florida
bands?
Georgia Line.
Florida Georgia Line.
Let me tell you something. Okay, so there's a guy. Here
we go.
Check this out. So there's a guy that me and my buddy Jackson over there and Hannah. Jackson's here, by the way. He's got his nose in his phone. Sure, usual. Anyway, he's all pissy now over there. I'm butthurt. Anyway. But there's this country artist that we really like. His name is Wheeler Walker Jr. And he does kind of like parody country. It's all like, fuck this, fuck that, nasty shit. He's got a song called Redneck Shit where he talks about like banging his sister. And it's like shock country, right?
Yeah.
And it's hilarious, but he's damn good. He's really good.
So in other words, he's Frank Zappa of the country music scene.
You listen to old country and it's funny too. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, family tradition. There was a sense of humor. There was an air about old country music.
He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I've said before, I'm a huge fan of his, especially his podcast. You guys should give it a listen sometime. He's got kind of does a really refined, real good version of what I'm trying to do with mine. He's one of the few successful podcasts that doesn't have a subject. You know, it's just,
you gotta love that.
You know, it's just random as shit.
Yeah.
Well, he had this dude Wheeler Walker Jr. on there, and it's like almost 2 hours long, and it's a trip. But he talks about he just goes on Twitter or these social media things and just like rips these guys apart. And he's like, take a guy like Florida Georgia Line. They're singing country, and he's like, I'm not saying they're not good. I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm saying they're not country.
Right.
They're just strictly pop. They're not even country pop. They're pop. He's like, you think those guys are in good shape, good looking, wearing a leather vest with no shirt underneath, and got tattoos. Really good. You think they know anything about heartbreak? Those guys are getting 20 a night. You know
exactly. And that's where I was going with this. You took Willie Nelson, Florida Georgia Line. It's the same thing with B.B. King and Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah.
B.B. King plays one note in a solo.
Mm-hmm.
But that note means everything. Bubba said it best when he said, we were talking about it. That one note in that one place means everything. And that song, anybody could sing that song, but BB sings it, and nobody else can sing it like him.
Exactly.
And that's why it's pure.
You want to talk about a cover artist? B.B. King hardly wrote half the songs he played.
Absolutely.
But the way he sang them was from the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so glad I got to see him. I saw him on his 80th birthday tour.
Nice.
And also, I've seen Buddy Guy a couple times. I played at Legends, but Hannah and I took my dad for his birthday to see Buddy Guy on his 80th birthday.
Wow!
It was him and Jeff Beck.
Oh my God!
It was
what a
great.
set. And you talk about on paper, B.B. King and Buddy Guy shouldn't be great. They shouldn't be famous.
Absolutely.
On paper, it's a couple of old. If you just walk into a club and you saw them with some bad band and like I said, on paper, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look sellable at all. But when you sit down and hear it,
so that's something. I got two things for that. That's one thing, like when Rolling Stone comes out with them, like top 100 guitar players, and all these guys are on there, and these like shred heads are like, what the fuck? So-and-so can, and that's true, you're right. Eddie Van Halen, as far as fast technical guitar players, should be up there, but Rolling Stone put him at like 20-something, and he put like Buddy Guy ahead of him, and B.B. King, I believe, and people are like, what the fuck? And it's like, get yourself a nice pair of studio headphones and sit down and listen to that, and it's like it does something to you.
Well, it was really funny because Buddy Guy actually said in an interview one of his humbling moments because Buddy Guy was an Eric Clapton fan sort of later in his days, and Buddy Guy met Eric Clapton, and Buddy Guy was complimenting Eric on like, hey, dude, I love that Strange Brew. You know what I mean? That's a great tune.
I love that.
You know what I mean? And then Eric says, well, you should. It's your lick. You know what I mean? And that's literally what he says. And then Buddy went back and listened to it. He's like, man, I see where he's coming from. He took it in his own direction, but I see where he got it from something that I did. You know what I mean?
Another little curious tidbit about that. I love Buddy Guy because he keeps it raw. He's purposely like really vulgar at his shows.
Absolutely.
He walks into the women's bathroom with his wireless at every show he plays.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
And so last night, I thought Bubba had his wireless, and I saw before Chris walked out into the crowd, I leaned over to Hannah. I was like, I think I should walk out into the crowd. It's last jam, I'll do it. Bubba didn't have his wireless anyway, no big deal.
Yep.
But Chris did it before me anyway. And I was like, fuck, I better walk into the girls' bathroom if I'm going to top that.
My last chance.
Yeah, I was like, I better do it last song in case they boot me for it, But I was watching this interview about Buddy Guy talking about the first time he met Jimi Hendrix. It's like 68, Chicago. Buddy Guy's killing a club. He's pretty much, Buddy Guy got famous in the late 60s. People don't know it, but because he was just in the blues scene. He wasn't playing much different then than he is now,
Exactly.
And so he's playing, and he's like, yeah, I'm playing the guitar behind my head and do all these tricks and everything. And I'm with this group of girls, and they're pointing over this dude with a big hat, and they're like, man, that's him. That's Jimi Hendrix. And Buddy Guy's like, I don't know who the fuck that is. So what?
But then I'm sure.
But then they got acquainted, and Jimmy introduced himself, and was like, man, I really into your stuff, man, and you mind if I record you, And he's like, do whatever you want. I'm trying to bang these hippie girls,
And that was blues right there, baby.
That's what I'm saying. That's something that
all blues can be.
Like, you don't see Joe Bonamassa doing that. You don't see Joe Bonamassa being 21, 24, drinking scotch.
No.
He's just not, he wasn't living like, I don't know, like we live, I guess.
Well, there's something to be said about having a hard time. Because, you look at Joe's history, I mean, everyone has a hard time. I am a firm believer that there are no big or little problems based on lots or little bit of money.
Absolutely.
And problems are universal. You know what I mean? Whether you got a lot or a little bit, a problem's a problem, and it's going to hit you the same way. But, you look at Joe as a kid when he was, opening up for B.B. King. He didn't have a care in the world.
Nope.
He was playing what BB, he was doing this whole, he was doing the act. You know what I mean? And he got really good at that act. So good that you almost couldn't tell the difference. He got that close.
Yep.
And this is coming from a diehard Joe Bonamassa fan.
Yes.
I mean, I've got a Joe Bonamassa wah on my pedal board. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
I'm a huge
awesome.
Joe fan as far as a guitar player and a songwriter. But he got that close. I mean, so close to being, what would be, that soulful.
Absolutely.
And there's a reason he's playing shows like tributes to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and B.B. King and Freddie King and Albert King. He's playing these tributes.
Yeah, King series is cool.
You know what I mean? He's playing these tributes because honestly, he can't write the songs that those songs mean to people.
And like I said, all that being said, I think he's one of the greatest talents, not only in blues, in music today.
Hands down.
You can't take anything away from Joe because honestly, it's hard to tell where blues would be right now from where for Joe.
Yes,
exactly.
But if I have to pick them apart, that's the only thing I can say.
Yep.
So the last thing I want to touch on, and this is more for Bubba, but Al, you may be able to chip into this too. I wanted to talk briefly about what it's like being a 15, 16, 18-year-old blues guitar player. And I'm talking everything from lack of respect. I'm talking about everything from to the end of playing these sketchy ass bars and you're a kid. Like, I'm still a kid. I'm going to be 25. I'm still young. But at 15, I was playing in a bike club. I was seeing shit that I thought only was real in the movies, man. I saw stuff. I was like, oh my God. The first bike club gig I played, my dad had to take me because I couldn't fucking drive. I was 15.
Right?
Next time I played when I was 16, and my dad was on midnights and had to work. And him and my mom weren't getting along, so he goes, fuck it, just go. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, don't do anything stupid. I'm like, all right. I go this. How do you not do something stupid at a motorcycle club, dude?
Right?
They're raffling off 357s with the serial number ground off and everything else, man. I was like, I didn't think this was real.
I'm going to die here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing is, I thought that, But when you get in there, once they know you're part of the band, you're a king.
Yep.
You're
Exactly.
king,
I've
dude.
experienced that same thing. No, and I want Bubba to answer that, but then I want to talk about on the outside, standing next to him on stage, what I see. So go ahead, Bubba.
So I guess I might as well start off with where I started playing guitar, because that's where this is going to end up leading us,
Yeah, absolutely.
why does one pick up the guitar, is it
Pussy.
Everyone says that, but then I pick blues. I don't know if you've ever
That's
tried
true.
to get
That's
laid
true.
playing blues as a young kid.
It has
but
worked for me, but yeah.
other 21-year-old women don't want to listen to blues. It doesn't turn them on. Don't get into blues, kids. Play punk rock. Play pop. Play country.
Time out.
Play
I'm gonna
country.
stop you right there. Play whatever you want, but brush up on your acoustics.
That's it.
Brush up on that acoustic guitar.
Look a woman in the eye. Play her a nice acoustic song.
Yeah.
Learn every rose has its thorn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
and learn how to play without looking at your fingers, because you got to look them in the eye.
Yeah,
the
Bill
entire
Cosby
damn
wouldn't have
time.
needed roofies if he could play guitar.
Damn.
Oh, man.
I'm
So
telling
that's
you,
how the
dude.
rest of this podcast is going to go.
I tell you, that's Uncut. That's the title. I can say whatever I want on here.
Fuck, man. But no, so imagine me, a punk little kid, and I just, it's what's on the turntable, it's what's playing is classic rock. I'm talking, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, guitar music.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm sorry to stop you again, but is that what you grew up with?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure your dad's music taste influenced you. That's what mine
absolutely.
did.
I didn't get in the car and pick the radio station some punk ass little kids did, my age.
Exactly.
I listened to what dad put on or what mom put on, you know what I mean? And that's what I listened to, you know what I mean? That's what was on in the car. No matter what anyone says,
Absolutely.
you listen to what's on in the car. And we were listening to Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, these guitar bands. And I was like, you know what? This is damn cool. And if anyone ever says that a desire to please your old folks is not what drives you when you're a kid, they're lying. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If you want to impress your mom and dad.
I didn't lose that until later in life.
Yeah, right. Well, you don't. When you're a kid, you want to impress.
No, 100%.
So and that led to an internal desire to play guitar. I just had a cheap little acoustic guitar you get at Meyer, a little First Act something or other. But I was trying to play, some old Deep Purple tunes. And it was hard, and I couldn't do it.
Did you learn the one string Smoke on the Water?
Of course. Everyone learns the one string Smoke on.
Hey, what songs you know, man?
Yeah,
Why not
right.
Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and this?
Smoke on the Water. You guys get ready for this. A little album called Machine Head. Get ready.
Mind blown.
But no, and so that's what I wanted to do. But then the drive came from, getting so close and not being able to do it. It was like, I can almost play guitar. And then that's where it was not pleasing mom and dad anymore.
Well, that's gas on the fire too. Is
exactly
once it's in stages, and that also leads to plateauing in your guitar playing. I feel like, or your instrument playing.
Absolutely.
You see yourself getting better, but so you up your bar, and then you don't hit it. And instead of getting frustrated, when you start getting good, it makes you hungry as fuck. You're just like,
that's it. You know the feeling.
You just devote
Any young
yourself.
guitar player knows the feeling when you're 16 and you're full of angst and anger
Yep.
and you can't do something, and someone tells you can't. When someone says
Yep.
that's too hard, even if it's yourself, you're like, fuck you.
Yep. And
watch.
Another thing was when I first started getting good at playing leads and stuff is hearing the first time I recorded myself playing an improvised good ripping blues lead. And it sounded 10 times faster after I heard it. It was the opposite of vocal singing. Because when I first started singing vocally, I was like, that was good. And I listened to it and I was like, oh God, that's just terrible.
But then you realize, when you listen to your lead back and you're like, oh my God,
I was like,
I didn't know I could play
yeah,
that.
that sounds really good.
I do some stuff in the studio like that, and then I've done some stuff live like that where I look back at the video and I'm like, I didn't know I could fucking play like that.
Exactly. That's a good feeling though.
Oh, it's so good. Just to preface this, anything that can make you feel good, do it. Whether or not it makes you money, whether or not you got friends that say you can or can't or should, whatever will make you feel good, that's productive, that is, even if it's worth investing money in, don't let anyone tell you that doing something for yourself to make you feel good ain't worth it.
So
because that's all guitar is.
Absolutely. You got to be in it for the right reasons. One last thing I wanted to ask you before we get to what Al's got to say. Do you think that being on the music scene at a young age has made you grow up faster than more people, kind of unsheltered you from the world?
Absolutely. Well, the point I wanted to get to was when I started playing guitar for real, I think it wasn't too dissimilar from you. My dad was a biker. He had biker friends that wanted to listen to biker music.
Yeah.
And I was the
Do
key.
biker things.
You know what well, exactly, you know what I mean? I won't name any clubs, but I was wiping out the trophy cases before I knew how to freaking speak.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it was a matter of, there was this, air of, oh, you can play guitar. You should come play for us. And I played at places like the Uptown Bar in Monroe on Front Street. You know what I mean? That was the first place I ever played in public.
Really?
I had a loop pedal.
Oh, and you got a little rhythm track going?
Yep, and I would just do some simple like Leonard Skinner tunes, and they handed me a $20 bill. And I was so fucking excited.
So,
but then the big thing is then what. And I think, we could go on for an hour about this, but we'll try to keep it short. Thirsty Sunday night open mic blues jam was what did it. So for people who don't know, this is a very important thing for all three of us here sitting in this interview. It's a matter of live music staying alive. And last night, in case we get a little emotional, this was a big deal for all of us because a very important venue to all of us is closing its doors due to the fact that it's just not making money, and it's really upsetting. But when I was 16, 17 years old, there was a place in Dundee called Thirsties. And every Sunday, they had a blues jam. And that blues jam would go from 7:30 to 10:30. And in there, you'd see some of the best musicians you could ever see. Old cats, young cats, anything you wanted to see, you could see there. These, full bands would come in, just to sit in and have a good time. You know what I mean? No one was getting paid that much. It was just a matter of coming in and having a good time. And, this hot shot 16-year-old, I've been playing for 5 years at this point, not much. I'm sure it was similar for Blair because I think that's where Blair got a lot of his stuff too.
I started there 15 years old and same boat as you were. I've been playing for about 3 years
And when it comes to an art like this, like making music, the best thing you can do is surround yourself with people who are there to support you and make you better by being good themselves. So I would come to these jams and I would suck. There's no halfway around it. I would suck. And they tell me I sucked, but not in the way you'd think. It would be a matter of, hey, this is what you should do. Hey, try this. Hey, let's not do that song next time. Or, hey, this is how you could do it. And I think you can attest to that.
I got a question for you. This is related, but off a little bit. Did you play at a guitar competition at the Monroe County Fair?
Fuck you.
Fuck you, Blair. Hey, we were in different categories.
Fuck you, Blair.
I got gypped out of the other category, but I watched you play and you were good. But I knew, I had an ego then. And I was like, he ain't gonna win. And then I looked, and then I was like, I guess I ain't gonna win either. I got gypped.
No, that was right before I started going to Thirsties. There was Monroe County Fair had
2010, 2011.
It was, what was it, Pickers and Shredders?
Yeah, that dude ended up being a pederast.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that guy that ran that, he ran power play in Monroe, and he ended up being like a molester guy, and he's in prison.
Such a sad story. Oh my God.
I knew there was something off when he gypped me. I said, fuck you. You're weird. You probably touch kids and shit.
You were right.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so unfortunate.
I don't know if anything happened. I don't know the specifics. I know he was like grooming kids or something, but anyway.
Like that. It's even after the law goes through it, it's hard to tell what happened, but it's so unfortunate. No matter what, whether he was a pervert or he got fucked over, either way, it's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
But no, I did that competition, but then Thirsties Blues Jam would do all this.
Oh yeah, they were instrumental for me.
I met a cat there who changed the way I looked at guitar. His name was Chris Canis, and the three of us here know Chris real well. We've played with him, we've seen him. Chris Canis is someone who needs to be famous. Chris Canis is the embodiment of what it means to have soul in your music. I mean, he can take any song. I mean, last night we heard him play Tennessee Whiskey.
Yeah.
That was great. That was intense.
It was like he wrote it.
That's the thing. Every song he plays, he might as well have wrote it because that's the amount of passion he puts into his performance. Yep. No matter whether it's for 3 people or 10 or 100.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's the passion he puts in it, and he was what I wanted to be. I don't give a shit if I'm famous. I don't care if I'm on a big old stage in front of thousands. I want to be Chris Canis.
Yeah. He's not a bad one to look up to at all.
Oh my God! And what that led up to was, a new love for blues. I mean, I loved Led Zeppelin and
Yeah.
Deep Purple, which were just basically hyped up blues bands. But the grittiness of blues and actually putting
It's
your
blues
soul
to
out
its
there.
core. He is the soldier of the blues.
Yes,
he
absolutely.
is though, man.
He is.
Damn,
He absolutely
I agree.
is.
Damn, is he
If there's
good.
anyone on the front lines, it's fucking Chris
Yeah,
Canis.
he's
Amen.
great. All right, to finish up, Al, I know you want to talk about what's it like for you being kind of like the old grizzled vet over there, but sharing the stage was, like real quick, I work with guys twice my age, and I've seen it in music too, but at my work, I work at a steel plant, and there's a lack of respect there. It's like they're like, I got kids older than you, and I was like, well, guess what? We make the same fucking amount of money, and I don't really care what you say.
And this is the honest truth. I can't think of anything more a fact coming out of my mouth. I sit there on stage some nights and I think to myself, right now I am where I want to be, doing exactly what I want to do. I fought this battle. I fought this battle since 1980. We tried to make it famous. We gave it everything we had. We almost got there. We never did. I'll never regret what we did. We did things that most bands can never think about doing. And I sit there now, flash forward to being, a little bit older, and I'm watching Bubba, and Bubba is a vampire. He feeds off of the energy of the crowd. The more lively the crowd, the more he just blossoms. And he's so social that it shows in his playing. And I can't think of anything greater than to take what I've learned and just keep passing it on to Bubba and keep him going. And I look at him and I think, you know what? This is the future of what I tried to do. And all I can think of is whether I'm with him, if or when it happens, or if I'm not. I'm glad I'm part of what he's doing because I see him, and I really try, quite honestly, I wouldn't be playing for him if I didn't think he had what it took to go all the way.
Exactly. It comes to a point where if you sit back and think about it, his young age or my young age or anyone else, what's his name? Kershaw.
Yeah, Jake.
Yeah, he's real young.
Yeah.
And if you sit back and think about it, it's very impressive that he's so young. But when you're in the moment, if you're playing with them or watching them, I'm just impressed as a musician, period. I know it's such a cliche, but I don't care how old he is, you know? And I feel like some people, they don't get it.
It's
Another shit my dad says is people get it or they don't. And, people that are intimidated by or kind of brush off a younger musician because they're not as experienced. I wish more people were like you and were more nurturing, like this is the future.
And it cracks me up because my cousin's the same way. My cousin's in Georgia right now playing guitar for a young lady named Gina Gailey. And she's an awesome country musician, and she's winning awards, and she's really starting to pick up. And we compare notes, and it's just like we're both doing the same thing, except I've cut over to blues. And like I said, I'm watching Bubba, and I'm thinking, he's singing from the soul. He's doing exactly what he needs to do. And all I can do is tell him, okay, watch this, watch that, don't do this, go after this, because I've gotten my butt kicked by the music industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And quite honestly, he makes me young, and I keep him grounded.
Yeah, and
that's what it boils down to.
I think that as often as there's lack of respect from a seasoned musician to a younger one, there's also the young bullheadedness of I'm not listening to anyone, No,
so, fuck you. Blail, that ain't real.
Yeah,
I'm hot shit, and don't you fucking forget it.
That's
exactly.
Right.
No, but I feel like in harmony, it's the best thing that could happen.
Well, so do I. I really think it is too, because like I said, I to me, it doesn't even, it spans age. It really does. I mean, when I'm on stage and we're going back and forth and we're doing things that, a normal 51-year-old man would not be doing.
And honestly, a normal 21-year-old wouldn't be doing either.
Exactly.
And it's called blues.
Yeah.
And I look back and I get done with a show and I'm like, I'm doing exactly what I want to do with who I want to do it. I mean, Bubba, me, Rick, Dave, we just have this thing and I hope it never ends. I hope the ride is just beginning.
Absolutely.
And the coolest thing is, we're actually writing a song about it right now. And if you can go check out the album once it's out, we've got a Facebook, Bubba Wilson of the Powerhouse. But when that album comes out, there's gonna be a song on there that just, is the pinnacle of, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are, what race you are, what you're doing in your life, you know, what you've done in the past, what you'll do in the future. Sometimes when you just sit down and make music, that's all that matters. And the fact that I get to do it with some of my best friends in the world, no matter what age they are, no matter what political alignment they have, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah, that's right.
You know, yeah, you know.
Because really, in real life, Bubba and I are like polar opposites.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, but at the end of
Doesn't
the day,
matter.
we
Yep.
sit down and play some music, and we're the best friends that, you know, any 21-year-old, any
Exactly.
51-year-old could be.
The world needs to learn from that.
I couldn't agree more. That's if you guys leave with anything tonight, there's that. I can be very vocal. When I say politically, I don't mean just politics. I mean like my opinion in the matter, the
Right.
politics of the matter. But I've never judged someone for their outlook, and that's the problem nowadays. I'll tell you I disagree with you all day long, but I don't think you're a piece of shit. But that's for another time.
Exactly.
Where to finish up? I know you guys go on Facebook, search Bubba Wilson and Powerhouse. You guys are on iTunes, Spotify. What else?
Amazon.
Amazon.
We're on Amazon Music, and the best thing to do for when it comes to a gig, man, our calendar is always changing. So go subscribe to the events on the Facebook page. And
Yeah, you got a
that's the best way to
website
keep
too.
up
I
with
was
us. BubbaWilsonMusic.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
cool.
I'm so ashamed I haven't been on it yet.
I went on it. I checked it out very, very shortly because I was looking for his music, for your guys' music rather, just so I could play it off my phone here like I'm about to.
Hey, no problem.
But anyway, I really appreciate you guys coming out. This was Bubba Wilson, the Powerhouse, specifically Bubba Wilson. Alan Bacus has been great. This is a really good one,
This has
man.
been a party, man.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Oh,
brother.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great. So I'll finish out with some more Bubba's song you heard earlier, and make sure you go check them out. This has been Perception Uncut. I am Blair Teller, and I will see you guys next time.
She said, every minute of friendship, baby, every moment in bed. But she told me that our time had come. From her point of view, our time was a good time, but our time was through.